and I thank you all for coming to spend some of your Saturday here to talk with us about this important issue. My name is Dr. Levi Funches. I am an assistant professor of pediatrics at Riley Children's Health, IU School of Medicine. My specialty is in NICU. I work in neonatology, taking care of preterm infants. And so this is an important issue to kind of talk with the community about. I do a lot of work looking at infant mortality, but we also have concerns with maternal mortality. And that's maternal mortality, if you're not familiar with that, it's like a mother dying during the pregnancy, during childbirth, or 42 days, a month or so after that, even up to a year. And it is a bad problem in our country, not just in our state and in our communities, in our country. When you look at other countries that are wealthy countries, a country very similar to the U.S., we are lowest in maternal mortality, and that is a horrendous piece of news to know. It is a good factor to kind of know how good a society is, because you look throughout history, the society is taking care of mothers and children, and society is probably doing well. So this is something we need to do better of. Especially when you look at communities of color, that rate even is higher. It's almost 2 to 3 times for Black and brown mothers. Their rate's higher compared to non-Hispanic whites. And when we look at Indiana, it's even more worrisome, because Indiana has been, I don't want to say traditionally, but historically has been kind of one of the worst out of the 50 states. I believe right now we're probably 48th. I think we're 48th when you look at like the states, with 1 being the lowest and 50 having the highest maternal mortality rate. Indiana is like just 2 from the bottom. So this is a very important issue we want to talk about and engage with the community conversations. And it is an important issue for fathers, because a lot of times people, when we think about, and I do work with engaging with fathers in the community, when we think about children and babies, a lot of times people think that's just the mother's job. And I think a lot of times dads, and that's not just men thinking, a lot of organizations, hospitals, it sort of happens where dads kind of get looked at on the side. So we try to highlight the importance of fatherhood, because I'm being a father myself, having my father in my life, being an uncle to my nephews. I know I was pretty involved, whether they was taking money from me or whether it's from a financial standpoint, but also from a loving and caring and being there when they're crying and hurt and needing support. So we try to highlight letting fathers know the role they play in their family's life and in their community. And so this issue is important too, because if you think about when a mother is lost, you know, that is a hole in that family. And that is a partner loss that you know, and it does affect fathers, and that father having to be there just for that child by themselves. So I won't belabor my introduction. You get to hear more from me. We have a very great program this morning. We have Dr. Dungy-Poythress, is that right? Who will come up and talk with us about maternal mortality. For those who are not familiar with, she can expound on it more than I can. She's obstetrician, gynecologist. We have Dr. Ruth Lambert, who then will come and talk to you about when the baby comes home. What does that look like for fathers and things fathers should be aware of. We'll have breaks throughout the day, and then we're going to have a panel at the end, which you probably have seen if you saw the back. We'll have some panelists coming up to talk about their fatherhood journey. We have some fathers and grandfathers. I really feel privileged to have Miss Anthony Wallace here, who is a survivor of being affected by maternal mortality. And so I think he will be here to kind of talk about that and why it's important that we as a community try to address this issue. There are note cards I'll hand around. Like if you don't have a writing utensil or a pen, let us know. If you want to write down questions for our panelists, if there's any questions that come up, like as you hear our speakers, or questions you may have had when you knew this program was having about whether maternal mortality or about fatherhood in particular, is for the fatherhood panelists, so about fatherhood and father journey and any questions that come up from there. So with that, I'll call up Dr. Dungy-Poythress, who can come up and speak. Will you be okay? You need a chair? You think you're good? Okay.
Actually, can you guys hear me? I don't intend to speak long. God is good because he said a lot of the information that I would share. I have laryngitis, obviously. maternal mortality is the death of a woman while pregnant, or depending on who you're, World Health Organization or CDC, but up to a year after that pregnancy. And it's very important to me as a woman to address those things. I do high-risk pregnancy, so I deal with infant mortality, as Dr. Funches does, as well as maternal mortality. I also, as many of you may know, as Dr. Funches said, Indiana has always been in the lower ranks of maternal and infant mortality, and that has been ongoing. Additionally, the Black maternal mortality rate, unfortunately, has always been significantly higher than the white mortality rate. And in the most recent statistic, just recently released by the Indiana State Department of Health, is 20% higher, and that's not shocking, it's not surprising, it's not alarming, it's unfortunate, it's the way it's been for decades. And as a Black woman, as a mother to Black women, aunt to Black women, relatives to Black women, as a person who cares for Black and white women, that certainly is alarming and something we need to do about. So having said that, that's why we're all here. I am excited to be here. I will tell you that it was expressed to me that the last event, people were a little bit disappointed about the turnout, which made me think of the scripture, do not despise small beginnings. And so I'm very excited to be here today. There is no doubt in my mind that fathers and families are very important to this effort to reduce maternal mortality, not just for Black women, but for women all across the board. There is no doubt in my mind that families and fathers are important to the welfare of the well-being of women while they're pregnant and their children after that. There is no doubt in my mind that the knowledge and the expertise shared here today is going to affect at least one person. I could talk to you about statistics of the numbers of maternal deaths, but I don't think that matters. And I think if Velvet Miller was here today, who initiated this program, not one more. So we don't want one more. So it doesn't matter how many, what the rate was, which is hard to monitor anyway. You have to rely on so many things that have so many problems with them. Particularly if you're thinking a year out, somebody dies 10 months from their delivery. Did anybody even know they were pregnant at the time? They have heart disease, they died. But nobody reflects it back to the fact that while she was pregnant, she had preeclampsia, which related to her heart disease that manifested itself in a demise 10 months later. So the numbers, the actual statistics don't matter. Not one more is what matters. And no doubt in my mind that the knowledge and the expertise shared today is going to affect at least one father, one family, one pregnant woman, that we can improve and reduce the maternal mortality rates. So I'm excited to be here. If you have questions for me about anything later, I'm happy to answer them, but I'm excited to hear what's presented here today.
Thank you, Dr. Dungy-Poythress. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, the Not One More group, that, as she mentioned, Dr. Velvet Miller, who couldn't be here today, kind of initiated trying to do this project and this event to connect with fathers about this, having this conversation with fathers and families about this issue. So I want to, thank her. There's also other members here who are very important. Her son, Toby Miller, Celeste, she was very important helping us get this all together. Dr. Dungy-Poythress, which you heard from, helped us put this project together. And Dr. Ruth Lambert, who you will hear from next, who's going to come up and talk. They were all very instrumental in helping us put this all together. And again, I want to thank Mr. Jack Atkins back there in the Fathers and Family Center for allowing us to utilize their facility. He's been a very vital partner to my efforts to engage in the community with fathers. And so I appreciate all of you all. I appreciate Dr. Miller coming to me to address this issue and I appreciate the scriptures you shared, because to me, if we can talk to one father, connect with one family about this issue, then I feel I've done my work. We can go out, publicize, and want more, as many as we can. Yeah, the more the merrier. But if there's just one person we can get the message to, then I feel our work is done, and we're going to keep doing our work until we don't have this problem. Because I wanted to have this to end, because it just leaves a void in families and communities. So with that, I will call up Dr. Ruth Lambert to come up and speak with the group on her part, and she's going to talk about when you get home and you have that baby in your home, what now? Because there's some things changing in the house and how to navigate that. I brought you up the chair for you.
Okay.
There,
I'm going to try to stand for a moment.
okay.
And when I need to take this chair, I will do that. But I am Dr. Ruth Lambert, finally called Dr. Ruth. They said she is the Dr. Ruth, and I am the Dr. Ruth. Thank you. Because they said my clients used to say, she's X-rated and I'm PG. We're in the same field. I'm not quite as graphic as the Dr. Ruth. I'm just the Dr. Ruth. But it's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm very excited. I have my phone, so please forgive me. You've heard the old saying that once the adult, twice the child. Well, I do have a child at home, and my child is 80 years old. It is my lovely, beloved husband. We've been married for 57 years. It'll be 58 years on the 20th of December. And he is home alone, and he has injured his back, and I was in the ER with him and then the doctor's office all day yesterday. So I promised him I would only be a phone call away. So please indulge me. I told him if he should call, I will be there as soon as I can. But I'm just so grateful that he allowed me to come and spend this time with you today. I'm also excited in that Dr. Miller, I fondly call her Dr. Velvet, my sister, because I met her many years ago because we have one person in common, and then we found out that later we had two people in common. I met her son, Toby, whom I unofficially adopt, my surrogate son. When I first met him, I was doing consultant work. I had just moved here, and my church was trying to start its 501c3, and I was asked to head up that for the church. And Toby stopped by the church, and Reverend Byfield introduced him to me, and we talked, and I told him what I was going to be doing, and she had shared with him, "Hi, Booker. I'm so sorry. It's family here today." And I said, he said, "Dr. Ruth, I can help you." He said, "That's what I do. I love to do that." I said, "Okay, we can do this together." So he came over to my house, and he said he was soon to be married. And I said, "Oh, congratulations." And I said, who's the blessed lady? He said, "Celeste Morris." I said, "Oh, that's mine. That's my darling." And so she is my sorority sister, and she's going to introduce me. Or you not? Or have you already done so? I'm sorry. Dr. Funches? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just remember Dr. Velvet's instructions that she was going to do that. But Dr. Funches had already done that. And so I was so excited. And then he became Brother Toby because she's my sorority sister. And I met her when I lived in Elkhart. And we didn't have a chapter in Elkhart because our national office said that we could not have one if it's not more than 30 miles away. And South Bend was a little closer than 30 miles. So we had to matriculate there, and we would do what we call care packages for the students. And she was at school in Ball State. And look at her today. And look at their wonderful son, my grandson. So I just had to make that little spiel. But when Dr. Miller first got this wonderful brilliant idea, which we all are so thankful for, she came because Toby told her to come and I would help her get it started. So I'm one of the founding members of the organization. So I am really, really blessed. And I would be remiss if I could not say, to whom a lot is given, a lot is required. So even though I'm 79, until God says that, well done, my good and faithful servant, I will be at places like this. And now I'm going to get a little emotional because one of your panelists today I met because our dear soror beloved was one who lost her child right after childbirth, and you will be hearing from her husband, and they have baby Charlotte, and she was a Delta too. So baby Charlotte is all of our babies, and we love her, and we just want to give you a round of applause for you get here, because she is a single father doing awesome and raising his child, their child, and I love you, my grandson. I was asked today by Dr. Miller to talk about the stages of child development and the milestones. So Lisa's going to hand out to you a handout, and there's a lot of great information in this handout that you can read for yourself. I'm just going to highlight them because I know you want to hear the wonderful panel today. But it is so very important. This was put out by the Center for Disease Control Milestone by Ages. What should my child be doing? So how many of y'all, do you have children in here? So some of you already know, and you already know, and you know that you know because you have watched them go through it. However, but did you know what they were all supposed to be and what your child was supposed to be doing? Well, if you don't, well, you can go back and check. For those of us, my baby is 55, and can I say, did I know all this? I can honestly say yes, because my undergraduate degree was in advanced family relationship and child development. Therefore, I was taught when I was in college what the milestones were, and so I knew what to expect. But you know what? What I didn't expect is that I was going to have a number delivery on my first baby. It was normal, but she was 7.5 months and not full term. But thank God, I kind of ate quite a bit. And guess what? I was a little wider than I am now. And so she was right at 5 pounds, just not an ounce over. And so they let me bring her home. But our second child was quite a difficult pregnancy. And it was difficult because my husband and I'm from the South, and we worked about 20 miles outside of our city, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So we commuted from Pine Bluff to work every day, 20 miles and back home. We stopped at the service station, and the man checked up under the hood, and he slammed the hood down, and my baby dropped. And I said, oh my God. And I said, honey, come here. I said, the baby has dropped. He said, what? I said, he slammed the hood and the baby has dropped. So we rode home. Well, at 10 o'clock that night, I was in the ER. She was only 3 pounds and 8 ounces. And they told me my baby was not going to live. And I said, you know what? Well, let God determine that. I said, so we will see. And thank God that she did. But when I had to leave her at home in the hospital, leave her at the hospital and go home, it was really hard for me. And my husband went to work every day after 3 days. And I went there every day. And he joined me after work. And they called it that time an incubator. But you know they don't call it that now. It's an isolate. And we would rub her little body and we would sing to her, and we would pray. And she just, her little bristles, I mean, she was so tiny. We just said, oh, we just prayed. And you know what? Because I had a master's in advanced child development and relationship, I'm getting a little misty here, but I'll be okay. They, my pediatrician and my OBGYN said since I had a degree in that field, she shouldn't have to stay in the hospital until she was 5 pounds. And they wanted to send her home at 4 pounds. I said, no. I teach people how to take care of their children. It's a little different. And I don't think I will be ready until she's 5 pounds. But they said she was going home. So I called my mother. I said, Mother, you got to get on the next plane coming. She was living in Milwaukee then. And we were carrying her around on a little pillow. And when my mother came, I tell you, it's nothing like a loving mother to help you take care of your babies. So I want you to know, I'm sharing this with you because I know some of you, I don't know what might have happened during your time, but I want you to know that there's hope and you should never give up, no matter how young, how small, how early they came, and how old they are now. Always have hope and always keep your children close. Oh, I just wanted to share that with you. So it's very important. If you have children or grandchildren, make sure that you keep this handout so you know what those milestones are. The correct term is called developmental milestones. Children have physical growth, mental and emotional growth. This is not on this. I'm just giving you the headings. And then they have their social growth. So those are the 3 major growth spurts that your child will have as he or she is growing up. And usually during the first and second months, they will gain about 1/4 to 1/2 pound of weight each week for the first 6 months. Height gain is about 1 inch per month. And what do you think happens after that? They start breathing through their nose. What do they breathe through before then? What do babies breathe through before then? If they're breathing through their nose, where else are they going to breathe through? Their mouths. And so they start breathing, closing their mouths. And so why do you think that happens? I know y'all have babies. Y'all have them babies. Why do you think that happens? They first say, "Oh, come on, talk to me. Because what? What do they have to breathe when they're sucking the bottle or they're nursing on their mom? What do they have to breathe through? Their little nose. Yes. Was that very hard? Oh, my. What? This class, I tell you, I don't know about what I'm going to have to do with you all. I guess I'm going to have to walk around and touch you on the shoulder. They're not able to hold their little heads up, but what can they do? They can't hold their little heads up like this. They just lay there. So what do? But they can do what? Move their eyes, and then they can do what? Turn their heads from side to side. Oh, I'll give y'all an A. I'm going to give y'all an A. They can start turning their little heads from side to side. And what month do you think that happens when they start turning their heads side to side? Who said that? You were exactly right, the second month. But the first month, they will do what? And you're supposed to put your baby on what? The back of the stomach when it's first born. Where do you put the baby? Where do you put the baby? On the back. Why? Why do you put that baby on the back? Now, when I had my baby, they didn't tell me that because my baby, my oldest baby is 58. So, why do they have? Why? Don't suffocate. What? Another answer, another response. Why do they say? Dr. Funches, tell them why they put that baby on their back. so they can sleep safely because they do what? They nurse, they have their milk, and so if they should do what? Throw up, vomit, or regurgitate, what? They won't do what? You don't want the baby to do what? Strangle to death and what? And die. No, you don't want the baby to die. So it's important that you make sure that baby's on the baby's back. And where should the baby sleep? As well as we want that baby to be close to us, where should the baby sleep? In its own bed, be it the crib, but most of the time we put the baby what? In what? A bassinet, so we do what? So the baby can be what? As close as possible. So that if the baby should cry, you can do what? You can put your little arm out, big arm, big hand, daddy, and do what? Cry the baby. Or do what? You know, when that's that small, what do you have to do? Oh, Lord, that's what you have to do. They cry because you have to feed them what? How often do you have to feed them? Oh, I'm sorry, recording. You have to feed them how often?
When at nighttime?
Yes, when they're first born.
About twice.
Every 2 to 3 hours. Because what? Their little stomachs are what? Very, very small. So you have to feed them. And what do you have to do? You have to get them up. Mommy, she's nursing, has to get the baby up. But then how can daddies help with that when they're small? But how many months? About how many months do dad is very confident handling the baby? It's about how many months? 5? Mr. Anthony? Yes, some of them learn to be very, 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 very comfortable in 1. But usually they're about 3 to 5 months before they're very comfortable in handling them. But it's important that you understand or help your children or your grandchildren, like I had to do, understand that it's important that you make sure that your baby understands that it is loved and that it's protected. And when you hold the baby and hold the baby close, and not only daddy, not only mommy, but both mommy and daddy hold the baby so they can feel secure and safe. Because if you don't, they will grow up feeling very insecure if they don't feel safe. And the parents are the 2 people. And then there's Nana and grandmommy, auntie and uncle, as well as they grow up, that help to keep them safe. When does the baby begin to stand up by him or herself? About what? Will they start when you hold the little hands up? When they start. But before then, what happens to them? If you hold them up, what'll happen? But the body will go limp. Why? Because they can't. And guess what? You shouldn't do what? Force them to try to stand up, because what? Their little bones are not what? Developed. And you don't want to damage your baby's bones. So it's very important that you understand that physical growth. And that is what we just talked about now. Now, when you talk about the emotional growth, what happens? The baby, what do we normally put over the baby's bed? What we call that? Hang over the baby bed. A mobile. Because why do we put that mobile over that baby's head? Why is it? Because why do you do that? Did baby Charlotte have a mobile over her bed? And why did you put that? Why did you put that mobile over her bed? Why did mother, her grandmother, tell you that you put that mobile over her head? For her mental and emotional growth. Because what happens when that mobile is over that baby's head? It usually should be 8 to 15 inches. By 2 months, what will she start doing? Reaching for it. Really, first she's going to start following it. And what does that do? Strengthen the little eyes in her eye coordination. And you know what? Oh, she's pretty normal. How about right now? She's pretty normal. And then what happens after that in the child's emotional growth? He began to respond to faces, smiles, and grins, and little cuckoo noises that you make, also funny noises. But there's a lot of research, and there's some different research that that you shouldn't talk to a baby. You should talk to the baby in a normal voice. What do y'all think about that? Anybody got any opinions about that? Why? Why should we or why should we not? Come on. Baby, I didn't hear you. What, should we talk normal to a baby or should we make sounds to the baby? They say, oh, you talk baby talk to the baby. Is it bad to talk baby talk to a baby? You think it should do both? Why?
Just support with their cognitive development. And it helps them to start to learn to
mimic things. So they could, you make a sound and the baby makes a sound, they mimic. But then as they get older, so when do you really think you should really start talking real talk to them? When you should start talking real talk?
Someone said in the womb.
Wait! Wow! Do you all believe that the baby can hear and they learn the voices of their mother and their father in their womb? Of course they can. I don't know why people think that babies they don't have good sense and they don't learn. And not only that, let me tell you about our oldest daughter. I was very noisy in the kitchen, and I would go under the counter to get a pan, and I say, and she'll say, boom, boom. I say, she'll say, they what? They learn. They learn while they're in your wombs. They're very exciting too. And then what really makes it exciting when Daddy put his hand on your stomach and can feel the baby move. Another emotional growth is when the baby cries in the first month to show that he's hungry or wet or uncomfortable. What should you do when the baby cries? Because the baby can't talk, what should you do when you hear the baby cry? Check on it. See what? If the baby's what? Hungry, wet, or just crying. And if the baby's just crying, what do? You pick it up and pat it so the baby can do what? Feel secure and loved. And what about the social growth? What is the social growth? This is the first 2 months. And what is your social growth? They stop watching you because they can see you're the mother or the father. Major faces that they see, and they watch you. They want to know where you are because when you're out of sight, what does it make them feel? That they're what? By themselves and they don't feel secure. But so when you show back up, what do? They start grinning and calling you again to make sure and looking. They'll start looking around to see if you're there because they need to. Socialization is great for them. They need to be socialized. And the second month, that's when they begin to mimic you. If you say, hi, baby, I love you, and they start trying to say it. But then because you smile with them and when you change their diaper, you touch them and cleanse them, and they are dry and feel dry and not wet, they begin to feel secure again. And let me give you a few tips, then I'm going to move a little faster. I'm just going to share some of the physical growth, emotional growth, and social growth with you. Then I'm going to give you some tips. Now, on this handout, the tips are not there. So I'm going to share with you some tips. For the first and second month, You need to hold your baby. You need to cuddle your baby. You need to rock your baby. You need to talk to your baby. You need to sing to your baby. I don't have a singing voice, but I used to sing lullabies to my baby. And good thing she couldn't hear me, understand me, because I really don't have a singing voice, but I'm a very affectionate, loving mother. And so I kiss a lot and I hug the baby a lot. And guess what? It's not only for mommies to do, daddies are supposed to do that. The baby needs to know that the father loves him or her as well. Also, they try to, you want to console and comfort them when they are crying because of a loud noise, or you maybe even kind of holler at the daddy a bit. You have to really watch your tone of voice while your children are growing up and learning comfort. The other thing is create routines and habits for the child. Children work better and thrive better when there's a routine for them to follow. The following things that are not sporadic, but they need routine because that also provides them with the security that they need. The last tip I want to talk about, use toys that are right for their age. Sometimes, we get all these wonderful gifts when they're born and we want them to do things with them, but don't do that. You need to make sure that they're age appropriate because each toy has been researched and it is developed to develop that child emotional, physical, psychological, or social growth for that age. So don't try to grow them up too fast. Guess what? They're going to grow up fast enough and you're not going to be really happy when they leave, but you're going to be happy as the years pass by because they get out of your pocketbook. Okay, let's go to any questions about the first and second months. The other thing that you need to be concerned about during those first 2 months is that take your child to the doctor regularly. Take your baby for the baby's regular checkup because you don't know, the doctor knows. They're called pediatricians. They were given that name for a reason because they know best what's good for your child at that particular age and can help you understand the growth and developmental stages of your child and what the child should be doing as it relates to the physical growth and mental growth. And then talk to your doctor. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask questions, because your baby's pediatrician is the expert. Let's go to the next 3 to 4 months. Again, we're going to talk about the physical and emotional growth. The child has more control of his movement, neck, arms, legs, and chest. So he'll kick and she'll kick and she will move her little arms and he'll move his little arms. You have to remember that your baby still has a very soft spot in the top of the baby's head. And by then, the 3rd and 4th month, the baby can sit up straight and prop himself up. Before then, you would do what? Prop him up on the pillow, to try to give him some visual eye with your eyesight. Your babies can begin to raise his heel and play with his toes and begin to play with his chest and bear weight on his forearms. Babies up on their forearms. They can basically begin to support their weight when they're standing on their feet themselves, but they're more stable. You can hold their little hands and let them wrap their little fingers around yours. And they begin to bring objects to their mouth, and they begin to clutch their blanket. And like a lot of children, the little girl across the street, she is 3 years old. And every time she gets out of her car, she has a little blanket and her little teddy bear. That's part of that physical growth. That's when they begin to attach. Mental, emotional growth, they can locate sound by, you can make a sound over here and your baby will begin to move around and can follow you and will move in that same direction where the sound is. his starts his hand and eye coordination, and starts to cry less because the baby feels secure and knows that mommy and daddy are there for him or her. And they begin to say very, very words. You'll say, "Hi, baby," and they'll say, "Baby," and they'll say, "Hi." So they begin to say words. And on their social growth, they begin to smile and appear to enjoy you a little more. How about that? And they also show lots of interest in their surroundings, because you can turn the radio on and the child begin to look for the radio. You become familiar with faces, like the faces that normally come into the house, like the grandmother, the grandfather. Okay, and the last thing on that, 3 to 4 months, begin to show memory and routine and follow routine, and they like to be stimulated, like to do a lot of exercise and play little games. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if they can make copies of these before you leave, so you can get the tips, because I talk too long. They say I'm animated, but that's who I am. But I hope you learned something about it, what to expect, and I hope that maybe one time we can. I'm really a small group interactor, so I really like to sit in a circle and talk, and I like to touch too. So thank you, and I really appreciate having this time with you today.
Thank you, Dr.